everyone, it's Scooby, and we are back to episode 2 of Lake of Voices. And we're gonna see if anybody else dies in this episode. So, here we go, let's see. Load game. This one. There we go. So, last time they started their journey, and there were 3 people following the guide, and the one lady got killed by the creatures, and then they found some kid on the docks crying and decided to take him with them. So let's see what happens to the rest of them. Okay, I grasped his shoulder and turned to the rest of the group.
You should get a head start, correct? You'll have to put some distance between us.
The guide seems to agree as he starts to walk away without another word. Melly smiles, first at the stranger, then at me.
Take care back here, alright? We'll all be together again when we reach the halfway island. It won't be too much longer now. We'll have a nice little camp out, and you can properly introduce yourself to us. Maybe even tell a real joke or two.
The man emits a nervous laugh and ducks his head. The prospect must not be too exciting for him. With the stranger having pulled himself out of the conversation, Bimeli looks seriously at me.
I'm sorry to put you in even more.
Stop.
Stop being silly. It's okay. Bimeli shakes his head, still smiling.
I don't begrudge you at all. In fact, I'm glad you did. All I want is for you to remember that goal. Each of us. And then on the other shore, safe. This isn't about what our job is, or where other people need us to be.
I nod in response. Bimeli opens his mouth and closes it. He swallows hard.
You too.
I'm surprised to hear his voice wavering slightly. He swallows again, then
You
continues.
two should look out for each other.
Aw, you're starting to care. He takes a few steps back as if to go, but his eyes don't leave mine. The guide's figure disappears, with only his lantern to lead the way. Bimeli is finally forced to leave us behind and catch up with him. I watch him disappear into the fog, an odd feeling in the pit of my stomach. I cannot recall the last time I had difficulty seeing someone
You
leave.
should go after them.
I start. I almost forget the man was there, standing right next to me. Now he looks at me with desperate eyes.
You don't need to do this.
What?
I'd rather know you returned to them safe, and that you all had a chance to make it back together.
He's
The
so
way they
sweet.
ended, having to go on without you, no one would feel that way for me. I'm not worth it.
Aw, that's sad.
Let's not.
I stop, unable to say the last word. Can I claim that he's wrong? This is the one thing he has seemed sure of, and I do not know him. Empty platitudes may be worse than nothing at all. He smirks at my mumbling reply. I'm caught off guard by the change. With only that, it seems that he's in his element.
It's true.
No comment. He continues to grin, more so to himself than me.
Well, it certainly made a scene, huh? That's nice. Being loved and all.
He clarifies after I must have given an undesired reaction to the statement. I am so disconnected with myself. I am sure if surprise appeared on my face, or if I'm unsure if surprise appeared on my face, or if it was a lack of emotion that put him off. Yeah,
don't know
sometimes my
exactly
face
what
does
kind of
things I
love
don't
it
know
is
what
you
it's
share,
doing.
but there has to be a bond in that group of yours.
Silence again. He laughs, then speaks quietly.
It doesn't matter. I could still try for the other shore. Go.
I will stay. My certainty shocks him. I can tell immediately he has returned to his meeker self. The man starts to speak again, but I interrupt.
We should start walking. That should be enough of a head start for them.
He hesitates a moment, but ultimately begins walking at my side. I'm relieved. I can never be quite sure what will come from this one. He looks so sad. We move in silence. The man doesn't seem to want to speak anymore, but he keeps glancing at me as if expecting something. Somehow, his odd behavior is comforting rather than disconcerting. Perhaps it's because he's more nervous about all this than I am. It's putting me at ease, making me feel more capable. I shouldn't allow myself to get comfortable, however. We're in a more dangerous position than ever. The whispering from the lake, so faint that Bameli's close call now surges forth. It grows nigh and unbearable. The creatures teeming below the surface. I dare not speculate on what has them so excited.
Have you a name?
The man chuckles dryly.
Barely.
I don't really know what I am to take from that.
This time his laugh is more of a bark. Quickly out and swallowed back up. Then he frowns.
Lou. Only 2 letters. So barely.
I see. What are you doing out here without the guide?
Perhaps the question isn't appropriate to ask. After all, only the darkest of circumstances spurs someone to cross San Los. But this situation is very strange. I might even go as far as say it's suspicious. I know that's not fair, but I can't help it. Years spent anticipating danger have made me wary.
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know myself.
What does that mean? Is that some sort of joke too?
What does that mean?
Or do you genuinely not remember how you arrived where you are?
No, it wasn't a joke. Well, there is a point to it all.
Well, what's your point, man? Then his voice, already by nature light and airy, drops to a whisper.
I don't know why I even tried. I think that I'd be able to call a spade already, right?
He looks up, noticing my gaze, still leveled at him. Then he shrugs.
I'd rather not talk about
As what has become the norm, I don't fully understand what he means, but I can at least guess that he's not very happy with himself at present. And like it or not, he won't be sharing his real reasons with me.
it. What about you? What brings you out on this little adventure?
People. On the other side. People who need my help.
You have someone waiting on you? Then why are you risking yourself on me instead of worrying about what's going to happen to them?
I feel my brows furrow from the specks of alarm. Is that really what he took from this? I survey his face with a flick of my eyes. But there is no mischievous gleam to his look now. He's serious. We hold eye contact for a moment until yet again he stares down at the ground.
Sorry. I didn't mean to be disrespectful. It just fell out somehow. I wasn't thinking.
Aw, poor kid. Who hurt you? You're so sad. I'm scared. You're important as well, or say nothing. Let's assure him. His stare shoots back at me, eyes
Of
wide.
course I'm going to be there for those counting on me. But you aren't nothing. I won't simply turn my back on you.
He smiles sadly, the kind of smile only someone who has experienced great hardship has. A smile I'm all too familiar with.
I probably have to disagree. Still, that's nice of you to say.
We may not know each other well, but you wanted us to go on without you for our own safety. You even tried to have a sense of humor about it. That counts for something.
My statement is far from grand, yet he becomes distinctly bashful all of a sudden. Twitching his leg with each step, he hangs his head and mumbles his next phrase. Sadly, he seems unaccustomed to receiving praise.
That's true. Thank you for staying back with me. It's kind of nice.
No need to thank me.
All right. Can't even show gratitude correctly. Of course.
Aw. Poor kid. I go to give him a look, but he's smiling. He looks less pitiful than usual. He almost seems content while crossing Sinless. How? Why?
It is not funny to make a joke out of thinking that way about yourself.
But that's what people do when they're insecure. They make jokes of it.
If you don't want people to say things like that, then you shouldn't reject their things. Either I did right by thanking you, or I did wrong.
Good point.
Fine. You're welcome.
Now, is that so hard to say? This time he lets out a real laugh, though a short one.
I'm glad.
He stretches his arms out in front of him and elongates his stride, so he's walking a bit ahead of me. It sits wrong with me. He's relaxed and completely unguarded. He's even fine with distancing himself from the light and all the odd comments he has said so far. Then a thought strikes me. Maybe the reason he's so calm is that he doesn't care what happens to him. My heart plummets into my gut. For a time there is a relative peace in the silence between us. Then Lou sighs heavily.
I never could have seen myself in a situation like this. It seems things really aren't over until they're over.
Did you think it was over?
He doesn't answer immediately. When he does, the reply is accompanied by him grasping himself, like he might fall apart if he lets go.
Yeah, I did.
That would have been a normal outcome for his situation. Alone, lightless, I shouldn't have asked. I have to let a frown slip through, because Lou smiles a non-smile. He stretches his hand behind his neck and gives a chuckle.
Something really is wrong with me. Somehow, I feel lighter.
Alright, well maybe this is good. If he's feeling better than he was, then perhaps his view of himself will
I
improve.
wonder who'll still be left standing when this is truly all over.
What?
Everyone will be.
I know this isn't the truth, but I cannot bring myself to say anything else. This is the group we have now, and I will not let him believe it is lost cause.
You know that's not possible, don't you? Someone will go. You should focus on making sure it's someone else.
You don't seem to be concerned with self-preservation.
That came out more hostile than I expected it to. He doesn't mind.
True.
He's probably used to it.
But it's not the same for me.
True words of inspiration. I still don't know how I'm supposed to interact with a person like him. Making conversation is already not strength I possess. Regardless, Lou echoing that statement was not something I had expected. The whispers from the lake, which had already grown, now speak faster and clearer. The individual words are almost audible. I'd likely be able to make them out if I knew the Nyx language. For a split second, I wish I did. The light in the distance still drifts along in the same manner as it did when we first started walking, which I take to mean the path hasn't turned so far. Hopefully that means we're still on the right path. But the light, it got brighter. It's strong enough that I had to glance away for a second. The next time I look, the light has grown. The bridge is on fire. I grab Lou's arm without thinking. He's standing there stiff, staring at the glow, eyes
We're
dull.
going to run.
To hell with the guide's order. If we don't go now, we'll never go anywhere again. Lou doesn't respond. I give his arm a small tug and he appears to come to himself when he nods at me. I make the decision, then, that I won't let go of his arm. I don't know what will happen to him if I do. We take off, the heat growing with each step. The darkness of the bridge means the fire is spreading slowly. But it makes me question how it began in the first place. There is no end to how. Wrong this place is. Oh. I read that slightly wrong, sorry. It takes 20 paces before the air around us ripples. We then starts folding into itself. Thick smoke pours over us, stinging like scorpions at my eyes. That sounds horrible. I cover my mouth with my free arm to keep breathing, and soon we are at the fire itself. The bridge lurches beneath us as if its beams supporting it are starting to give away to thousands of flying sparks. Lou stumbles and pulls against me for support. But we keep our ground. I start pulling him through the blaze. We don't have time to gather our bearings. Who knows how long we have until the bridge collapses or is devoured by flames. We continue weaving across the bridges, shielding ourselves from the heat. I can see a faint figure in the distance, through the smoke. And as we draw closer, I realize it's Vimeli coming our way. I press on to meet him, towing Lou alongside me. Vimeli is absolutely beaming when he notices us, and I can't help but match the look of relief on his face as I approach him. You can hear the fire crackling. That's nice.
What happened?
I take a moment to steady my breathing after getting the most pressing question all on my mind.
A group of prowlers were in our path. His solution to that was throwing an open flame at the damned monsters. He knew he'd be setting this entire place up, because it didn't matter.
Did the guide leave you behind? Is he gone?
I begin tersely? At first. Oh, okay. But as I speak, I can't help but worry leaking into my voice.
The guide is not a man you need to worry about out here. I chose to stay back. There was plenty of light to go around thanks to him.
I balk at him.
That is not a plan, Vimeli. You need a lantern to make it. What if we didn't find each other? Do you realize how easily you could have gotten yourself killed?
The statement comes out shrilly as I clench my fist in frustration. Vimeli mirrors my anger as he barks back at me.
I've seen what happens to those left to catch up here. They don't. I wasn't going to keep running this time and leave you behind.
Swallowing my retort, I close my mouth and look at him solemnly. After a moment, I sigh. This isn't the time for a discussion, and after that, what Margaret went through, I can't blame him for the conclusion he came to. Suddenly the bridges begin to quake once more beneath our
We need
feet.
to leave. Which way did the guide go?
I don't know for sure, though he went off in that direction. The fog overtook him, but I didn't see him turn.
That will work. Lou?
Where's Lou? I look around for him, realizing he's not with me any longer. At some point, I let go of his arm. Why? He's standing on the side, gaze glazed, transfixed on the darkness. I step forward and yank him back to my side.
What are you doing?
He flinches at the unexpected contact and looks attentively at me. He doesn't offer an explanation.
Sorry.
That is all he ever says. I let go of
Both
him.
of you stay close. We are not going to separate again.
This is getting intense. We keep down the path, the flame still gradually gnawing on the planks behind us. The guide doesn't turn up, nor do any signs of him, but we push on. We will not stop moving. Then we do. The bridge comes to a dead end of rotted out boards, collapsed onto the lake. For a moment, our breathing stops at once. If this was the way that led to the island, then I flip back to face the others, my expression unaffected. I'm not going to allow panic to sap this group of
Let's
judgment.
look for another bridge.
I resolutely begin retracting our path. The others follow without protest. Our regression is silent, except for our footfalls and our snapping of soggy wood attempting to burn. We frequently have to step over smoldering sections trying to come alight. At one point, we even have to walk one at a time sideways to avoid wildly flickering small fire blowing out black smoke. Just as my spirit is beginning to dim, we come across a different direction to take. Among all the forks, there are only two that aren't collapsed, or two consumed by fire, to risk
going to have to
following.
pick one.
Oh no, let's pick a path. Ameli sounds uncharacteristically doubtful of himself. Lou's gaze is flickering down either path. There's a palpable sense of anxiety coming from him.
I don't know. I don't know which way.
It's all right.
Well, you got a 50-50 chance here, so... But it's not alright. We have to have something to go off of. Anything at all. A cold sweat trickles its way down my back. Ew. Before anyone tries to randomly choose when a noise catches my attention, I hesitantly adjust to...
Did you hear that?
A whistle.
Follow the
It came
whistle!
from the right.
Okay, let's go to the noise. Lou and I trade looks. This could be a signal we need. But what if it
Do
isn't?
those
What if it's
monsters
a
know how
trap?
to whistle?
I don't know.
I know a lot of
Seems
people that don't know how to
unlikely.
whisper.
The air isn't
Whistle.
pleasant to them. They're underwater creatures.
We should go right, I think, to where the sound came from.
Sorry, Bamelli, I cut you off. I'm a little surprised Lou is offering his own opinion. It is good to hear. However, I take a deep
I
breath.
agree. There's more of a chance that whistle was a sign for good over ill.
Our course decided, we move as one down the right path, no longer hesitating. Ow. Stop it, cat. As we follow the bridge, there is no sign of the end. There's no need to debate between directions again. We start to outpace the fire, the danger thankfully fading away, but the night continues to lighten regardless. I glance at the sky and realize what's happening. The sun is rising. The bridges will sink into the water as darkness disappears, and take us with them. We'll be lost. It suddenly seems pointless. We don't even know whether we've gone the right way. And we still haven't caught up to the guide. Cat, stop, man. Cat doesn't get in my lap until I'm trying to do this. Try to push him down, he clawed me. Bad kitty. Okay. We can't outswim the Nixie, and we can't outrun the Dawn. We're going to run out of time. Yet we keep moving forward. And finally, our perseverance. There we go. is rewarded. The silhouette of an island rises in the distance. Trying to keep the cat off of me and reading at the same time is not working apparently. Hope you don't mind my stuttering. The island grows rapidly larger, and soon the scent of earth and trees reaches us. In spite of all the horrors of this night, the dock emerges from the fog before us, welcoming us to safety. We reach the shore. I don't believe it. I've stepped off the wood, and my boot sinks into the sand. I walk further inland like a corpse, my sole instinct to flee from the waterline. My hazy eyes single in on ahead. The guide stands on an outcropping in the distance, watching like a sentinel. He doesn't even come to greet us. I stare at him for a moment, not even able to feel alarmed at my own lack of feelings about the situation. He uses his staff to gesture to the forest behind him before disappearing between the trees. I can only assume he must be asking me to follow. The guide takes us further inland, more towards the center. There's a view of the coastline from here, but we're also pretty obscured by a few trees.
It's time to sleep.
No one has the energy to argue with him at this moment. To find a place as comfortable as one I could ask for in the location like this, next to one of the trees further out, and lay down, trying to block out my thoughts. Some of these sentences are missing commas. For once, exhaustion is my ally. And I slip off into sleep. My eyes slowly blink open and readjust to the brightness. What little there is, the sun is obscured by a thick layer of fog, making it impossible to estimate the time of day. I prop my elbows and push myself up. The ground is hard and rocky. But that isn't the reason I'm eager to get on my feet. I check my surroundings. The harsh, craggy earth of the island is interlaced with twisty vines and gnarled branches. Beside me, Melly and Lou are still fast asleep. The guide, however, is nowhere to be seen. I realize that I don't recall seeing him lay down with everyone. It is likely he left us hours ago. There is a creeping silence here. I can't help but shudder at the hollow, aching feeling inside of me. It refuses to relent. I shift my weight back and forth, unsure of what to do with myself. Memories of last night's harrowing journey flickers through my mind. Bemeli wakes suddenly, rising with an alarm and startling Lou awake as well. My mouth opens and shuts, and after a moment of fumbling, a word finally escapes. Bemeli gives me a gentle smile and makes his way over to me. Behind him, Lou remains on the ground. Pocket of questions descends over us. Bemeli sighs. The atmosphere is weighing on him already.
We should eat something soon. I don't trust what is on this island, so I'll have to split my supplies with Lou.
I still have a few rations left. I'd be happy to contribute.
Don't worry about me. I'm fine. I'm not hungry.
Eat something. You're so skinny. You need to be fed. Lou's back is turned against us. He still hasn't gotten up off the dirt.
You have to keep your energy up for the day ahead.
Bemeli speaks encouragingly, like he's coaxing a nervous horse. Lou buries his head deeper into his knees as he curls into a tighter ball.
No thanks.
Eat, damn it! Told you to eat! Bemeli lets slip a chuckle.
Well, it seems I've lost my role as the childish one around here.
I look at Bemeli and smile weakly at him. However, he's now frowning hard. I understand. Lou does not know what he speaks of, and the one who would isn't here. Noises. Ah, he's back. A distinct rustling of the leaves around catches my attention. The guide appears, emerging from the thicket. Vameli glares at him as he makes his way over. Blue doesn't seem to notice, as he's still facing away.
The Nixie will not tread on land in daylight. However, being near the shoreline is still dangerous. If you leave the center of the island, remain cautious. Before the sun sets, I will be in this area. It would be wise to meet me here before nightfall.
Why didn't you stay with us last night?
I sharply turn towards Vameli as he snarls and confronts the guide.
If you had just been there, none of this would have happened. She didn't have to die.
The guide stands unflinching and completely unaffected.
If all you're going to do is leave everyone to be lost, then why bother guiding us at all?
Despite Vameli's severe words, the guide apparently considers his piece here finished. He turns towards the forested area from which he came.
Wait,
Vameli calls out to the guide, reaching towards him. Before he can make contact, I quickly place a hand on his shoulder. He lowers his arm to his side, though I can still feel breath emanating from him. We stay this way until the guide disappears from view. Vameli begins to kick at the ground, spraying tiny pieces of gravel about.
I know you're angry, but regardless of our feelings, we need the guide. If he leaves us, we'll all die.
we've done so well with him.
I give him a cold glance. He won't even know which bridge to take without the guide. Vameli knows that. This needs to stop. There are people counting on us to make it back, and what of Lou?
We can't afford to lose our way.
The anger etched into his expressions fades into sadness. Next. Did I break it? Oh. Oh no. Oh. No. I hit the menu button. Get out of there. Hey, gives me the dialogue. Here we go. Sorry.
You're right, Kika. You're right.
Of course I'm right. I'm always right. Not really. He weakly swats his hand in front of his face as if trying to shoo away his racing thoughts. Get out of my head.
I can't stay here right now.
I nod, allowing him to leave alone. Lou meekly calls to me. I turn around to face him, though I don't speak. He's standing some distance away. He fidgets and glances over to the side. Before returning his gaze to my eyes, he gestures for me to come closer. I comply. He begins to whisper at me, but he fumbles with his words, and I can't make out anything he says. I look at him inquisitively. Finally, he speaks up, enough to be clear.
I'm sorry for what happened last night.
He speaks quietly as he looks up at me, eyes filled with sorrow. He shifts his focus
You
downwards.
would have been better off without me.
Do you mean when I had to stay behind?
This poor kid, he's so sad.
Yes, you and your friend were almost completely abandoned. You got caught up in the fire, and it was a disaster.
It's all right. Nothing happened in the end. Besides, it isn't your fault that things turned out this way.
It was closer to being my fault than anyone else's. I wasn't supposed to be here. All I did was get in the way. The guide was right about me. I knew from the beginning that it could be like this too.
Huh? This kid's making me sad. It's gonna make me cry.
I never should have stayed.
Finishing his thoughts, he sniffles as he turns away. Suddenly I feel a strong surge of emotions rip through me. Me too! Everything is falling apart, and I do not have the power to change this. Quietly I speak. I need to be alone. I have to see Bumeli. Blue, wait. Blue stops. Stops moving. He doesn't turn to face me. I hesitate as well, also unsure of how to proceed.
Are you willing to speak with me?
He turns around to face me, and his eyes are brimming with tears. He smiles
Do
slightly.
that.
It's always good to talk to somebody when you're having issues with your feelings. Sometimes it just helps to get it off your chest. I find the will to smile lightly back at him. Lou walks closer to me, then pauses. After watching me for a moment, he turns his eyes to the ground, waiting for me to do something. I just stare at him, unsure. After a brief silence, I finally sigh.
Can I ask you a difficult question?
He flinches.
I don't think I'm the person you want to ask difficult questions.
No one else can answer this one. It's about you.
Oh, in that case, I'm really not the kind of person to give good answers.
By his tone, it seems like he's trying to make light of the situation, but to me it still just sounds
I
sad.
understand.
He squeezes his eyes shut and gives no reply. Despite being clearly frustrated, it doesn't look like it's me he's upset with. Soon he reopens his eyes, looking directly
You
at
can
me.
ask me anything. I'll try to answer. But I hope you have a lot of patience.
I do, Lou. It's okay. You can tell me anything. I'll listen. He smiles
Thank
slightly.
you.
So, what do you want to know?
Have you lost someone in the lake?
Lou stumbles back a step from shock.
I'm sorry for crying, but when we found you, it seemed like you were apologizing to someone. And the way you've acted since makes me think that something is wrong. Something beyond even being out on Sinlos.
Gave him a sympathetic look. Why am I even asking him this question? Do I really want to help him, or am I trying to forget what happened to us by talking about someone else's misfortune? Now that would not be nice. I'm not supposed to go into someone else's misfortune just to make you feel better. That's what bullies do. When Lou speaks, his voice is barely above a whisper.
I hate myself. I can't do anything.
You don't have to say anymore. I was wrong to ask you about it.
I want to know. His brows are furrowed, and he smiles in a self-deprecate. Oh my God, I can't read. Depreciating? There we go. Way.
I'm sorry.
Lou laughs sharply at himself.
I'm not worth the concern.
Oh, come on, man.
How can you say that? What have you done that was wrong in this moment? It was only my mistake.
You think that because you don't know.
I do not believe you.
Lou's eyes bore into me.
I'm not upset because I lost someone out here. I'm upset because I can't bring myself to lie about it.
What?
You gave me the perfect opportunity to cover up the pathetic truth of what actually happened. All I had to do was go along with your assumption. But when you're so direct, I can't keep my thoughts hidden. I'm too afraid of making a mistake and having the lie uncovered somehow.
He stares back at the ground and sighs. What did you do,
Why
kid?
do I have to be so terrible at this?
Bewilderment rings through my mind, one ear to the other. His words stir all the sorts of baffling, jumbled emotions in me that battle it out for supremacy as I gawk. Lou is, I don't know. Without looking up, Lou shakes his
See?
head.
I shouldn't waste your sympathies on someone like me. You should have left me to die.
Like a shot. My anger flares
Pull yourself
up.
together. I didn't leave you behind before, and I'm not going to do so now. The best thing you can do to help is put those kinds of thoughts in the back of your mind.
Or what? I won't make it to the other side?
Lou laughs bitterly. He smiled, almost
If I
cruel.
thought joining you was a way to stay alive, I would have acted much differently. The only reason I came along is because I thought it might be nice to not die alone or forgotten.
Aww. My words sputter on and die on my tongue. Lou continues his speech, ignoring my
The
reaction.
guide really didn't know what he was saying before. I asked him if I could go out on the bridges in the past. He told me not to. He said I couldn't handle it. I'm not sorry for ignoring the warning. This was something I had to do. This was my only chance to prove I'm not worthless, or to finally accept that I was once and for all. And we know what the truth is.
Stop.
I can no longer keep idly listening to him
It
speak.
doesn't have to be this way. You said yourself that it isn't over until it's completely over. There's still a possibility that...
No, there isn't.
My blood pounds in my veins. Instinctively, I place both hands on his tightly wrapped upper
I
arms.
don't know what has happened to you, but if there's something you need to do, you can try again tomorrow night. You don't need to give up. You have value.
This just got really emotionally deep. Lou closes his eyes again and smiles to himself. I maintain my grip on him, waiting for his response. Nothing.
All right. I'll try to stay alive if you'll do something for me.
What?
What is it?
Don't put yourself in danger for my sake anymore.
No. My fingers curl harder around his thin arms, wishing I could argue further, but I don't know what is going on in his head, and I might push him back into giving up. I don't have the luxury of trying to reach him a second time. I release him to take a step back.
Fine. I'll accept those terms.
Good. Now you might survive.
I'm just saying that, but really, if you're in danger, I'm gonna save you anyway. So,
You need to survive too.
he laughs.
It goes without saying.
Smiles teasingly. His attitude is still difficult for me to grasp, but I attempt to smile in return. Thank you for caring about me. Say nothing.
I know you don't want anything to happen to anyone else. That is admirable.
It is. You're putting everybody else in front of you. That's cool, man. Lou says nothing. However, I do feel my words reached him. I wish he would let me help him, but I cannot find a way to do so. I can only trust that he will do his best to take care of himself now. It's better than him planning to let it end. I sigh wearily, and yet somehow feel as though my resolve has been strengthened, at least for now.
Dead out. I want to see how everything is on the island.
I'll make it easier by coming along. Then you won't ever have to check on me.
Aw, now you get it, kid. This time I'm able to smile
That
easily.
would be good.
Happy to help.
He readily moves beside me, and together we move out. Lou and I head through the wooded part of the island. There isn't anything that could be called a path, but we manage to pick our way through the bush quite well. Through a thinner stand of trees, we briefly catch sight of the guide standing on one of the beaches. He seems fine, but even though I'm sure he turned his head toward me, he makes no show of acknowledging us. We moved on and eventually find Bameli in a jagged clearing leaning against a tree. He's already noticed us and is looking our way, smiling. As we get closer, I can pick up on the sadness behind his jovial expression.
How are you faring? Any problems?
Everything is fine. We came to check on you.
How kind. I've calmed down since then.
Good. Keep your
I'm
temper
glad
under
to hear
control.
that. Is there any way I can help or anything you'd like to say?
He raises an eyebrow at that, his grin becoming markedly playful.
I didn't expect to see you so worried about me, Kika.
I have to force myself not to avert my eyes at the comment, embarrassment flowing into me. Unexpectedly, Lou speaks up in a soft but penetrating voice.
I think she always cared. You just didn't notice.
Aww. It's making my heart hurt a little bit. For just a moment, Bemelli's mouth levels into a thin line. But in a blink, he's smirking again.
That could be. Makes sense.
He turns his beaming face towards me, and I hesitantly return a smile, albeit a much smaller one than his. Out of the corner of my eye, I notice Lewis timidly smiling my way too. Bemelli glances over Lou and I, noticing something between us. He does not mention it, however. Instead, he throws his arms out wide with a sour
Have
expression.
you seen the guide?
Changing the topic. That's how we deal with our problems. Bemelli is clearly asking out of a sense of obligation and makes no secret that he's not pleased to be discussing the guide. I nod in
I saw
response.
earlier. He is the same as always.
Good. In that case, I'm going to stretch my legs for a bit. I feel stiff from standing in one place for so long.
Why the hell are you standing still? I can't even sit still. Lou and I both bid him a brief goodbye. Bemelli waves as he departs.
It's good to know the others are well.
We have nothing to do with our time. Even I can't ignore the wistful tone in my voice. Something is tugging at my heart, trying to tear a piece away. Yeah. Lou seems uncomfortable with my lowering mood. He stares out into the woods rather than at me.
I think I'll go to the shore.
No. His words snap me back to hard. Snap me. Blah, blah, blah. His words snap me back hard to hard reality.
What? Why?
I saw something earlier that I'd like to check out.
The shoreline is dangerous. Whatever you saw could not be worth the risk.
Lou actually laughs, a sudden sound that's as close to snickering as it is to sputtering.
Watching a Nyx drag itself across the shore in the middle of the day would be worth the danger, in my opinion.
Give him a humorless, reprimanding look. I feel vaguely like I have to use this. I've used this face to dissuade pets and young children from behaving poorly in the past. Yeah, that's a good look to give people. Stop fucking around, man. Listen.
I was only joking.
Thankfully, it seems to work on men as well. I hope he is telling the truth. For someone so nervous, he can be quite reckless.
I'm still going, though. Don't worry. I'll be careful. We talked about this.
But I was joking. He gives me a self-effacing, lopsided smile.
You said you didn't want to make me watch out for you.
I'll be back soon. You won't even notice.
I sigh. Part of me wants to keep lecturing him on how serious this is. I just want him to be safe. But I fear I don't have the words to convey that without making the situation worse. No, you can't explain yourself very well either. Bemelli and I will come. I will come. Ha! Bemelli walked off. Lou
Of
brightens.
course you can come. I'd enjoy that.
Aww. I get the feeling he was hoping I would say that. It is not as though I don't want to be around him. The farthest thing from it. the activity itself that's the problem. Despite my reservations, we head to the beach. Lou strides easily across the sand, his bare feet sinking down in the loose grains as he stretches his arms out contentedly.
It is so much nicer out here.
Oh, he likes the beach. Me too. I make sure to stay close behind him, just in case. I would not want him to go off on his own. Lou notices my position out of the corner of his eyes. He isn't so distracted that he's forgotten I'm here, it seems. He takes a wide step back, so we are side by side instead. I can't help but be surprised by his assertiveness, and it makes me grin nervously.
You know what I mean, right?
Yes. The shore has its positives.
I find it hard to navigate the loose sand in my boots, but Lou has little trouble here. There are only a few ragged bandages wrapped around his bare feet. I have to wonder how he has been faring thus far. The forest floor is rock hard and full of thorns. I clandestinely check for any signs of bleeding. Thankfully, there are no traces of it. It also does not escape me that losing one's shoes is an uncommon occurrence. They must have been stolen, or did he have any to begin with? There you go. Between my swirling thoughts and Lou's quiet self-assurance, we have walked in silence for a bit. This should be a good chance to ask questions about his life, where he comes from, what he does for work, if he has any other family. However, I cannot help but assume that he will shrink away from such attention. Those sound like questions you'd ask somebody on a date. Where do you work? Where do you come from? Does it really matter? Lou catches my gaze and inclines his head, a whisper of a smirk on his lips.
Is there anything on your mind? Something you'd like to ask me, maybe?
Aw, he's getting more confident. Oh?
Yes, I'm surprised you brought attention to it.
Lou snickers in self-aware sort of way.
When you're as suspicious as I am, it's pretty easy to guess that people will have questions.
Good point. I faintly smile. His openness is certainly appreciated, but the look fades as quickly as it appears. I turn away.
I've asked you enough questions.
Really? Lou's expression sinks into melancholy. He holds my eyes in his own, tightly locked and refusing to let go. Then he speaks unbidden.
I've done odd jobs most of my life. The only title you could say I've had is messenger boy.
He knew what I was gonna say. He can read my mind. He hangs his head in embarrassment over his achievements, and begins to drift further away. At least you had a job.
There is nothing to be ashamed of. Information is meaningless if it is not with those who can use it. There are far less honorable ways of making a living in this world.
Very true.
I can think of some too. Some that I've done.
Sure, you only did what you had to, man. His words are mumbled, so it takes a moment for them to sink in. I'm not sure what to say, so I settle on closing some of the distance between us and attempt to console him. Admittedly, I expected as much. His jitterness and defensive posture are typical of a petty criminal. I imagine he's had a tough life. That's judgmental. The warmth between us melts in the dark mood that was blah blah. Let's try that one again. The warmth between us melts the dark mood that was beginning to form. A teasingly crooked smile blooms on Lou's face as he relaxes again.
Thank you.
I didn't say anything.
That's what I'm grateful for.
At that, I am able to chuckle and give a bent grin in
It is no
return.
trouble.
Lou turns his head away bashfully and lifts his hand, steadily inching it towards me. My pulse starts to race. He lets it drop before he touches me. It is a relief as well as a disappointment. So close. Ow, let me go. Let go. Once again, silence falls between us. And that's called awkward silence. Suddenly, Lou begins running forwards. There is nothing ahead of us. I'm completely caught off guard and left momentarily dumbfounded. I shout after him to come back, concern rising in my chest. He keeps up the pace, but he turns his head back to look at me, almost as if he's enjoying this. Chase me! Chase me! Let's play tag! Whoa. Shell. After a short sprint, he comes to a stop. As I reach him, he bends down to carefully pick something up off the sand. It's a strange, beautiful
Isn't
shell.
it amazing? I wonder if other lakes have shells like this.
I love going to the beach and collecting shells. When I was younger, I used to do it all the time. Nowadays, there don't seem to be as many shells on the beach. But it's still fun. I'm not able to stop myself from sighing.
I don't know. Is that what you were expecting to find?
It is. I like shells.
Huh? Me too.
The world is so dreary. Many flowers that bloom will wither and die in days without attention. I can't find a way to appreciate such fleeting things. It's only sad.
As he speaks, his voice descends into despair. Dropping so low, I almost don't make out what he says. I cannot think why this shell is impacting him so profoundly, but I want to confront him somehow, regardless of if I can fully
Shells
comprehend
are
him.
beautiful and they can persevere. That is something I respect.
Yeah, I still have a collection of shells from when I was little. Love the conch shells. I can hear the ocean in them.
It is good you were able to find what you were searching for.
I think so too.
He lets himself remain lost in the moment for a second longer, then gently offers his meaningful shell to me. Aww. He's so
Why
sweet.
don't you keep it? It can be a reminder of me.
Aww. Now we're back to thinking sad. I have no idea on what to say. Those words seem harmless and yet foreboding. Despite my silence, he continues to hold his shell out for me to take. Cautiously, I reach up to accept the gift, afraid the wrong move could somehow hurt the shell or even him. When I have it, Lou places both his hands over my hand in the shell.
Thank you for coming with me.
Fly. He continues to make it difficult to speak. It takes some effort to hide the bashfulness in my voice.
It was no trouble, Lou. Really. Thank you for this.
I love the way these things are drawn.
Even if you didn't give it to
I don't know
me,
if I've said that already,
I
but
would not
I
forget
really
you.
do. He looks happier than I've ever seen him as he presses my hands more tightly.
I'm so glad I met you.
Likewise. I'm happy we crossed paths.
I hope that will never change. If you think of me from time to time, it will make this all worthwhile.
Oh, don't make me cry. I am glad, or say nothing. I am glad. Oh, Lord, my eyes really are watering up. No. Even if it is a more generous view of this than I would give, I relish his statement. Lou is finally showing some optimism towards life. I still am unsure why Lou came here to begin with, but it eases my mind to think that he may not have to regret the choice. Lou pulls away, locking a door I barely peeked
We
inside.
can head back to the forest now.
Right. That is for the best since we still need to rest before sundown. We will take the smoothest route back to the clearing.
Do I look so fragile?
I'm not impressed with his attempt at humor and look squarely at him. as I speak, my voice completely
Anyone would
deadpan.
have trouble with no shoes.
I figured someone like you would say I needed to toughen up.
I shake my head fondly. His elusive way of speaking has grown on me some.
Come on, we should go.
Together we return in the woods. I got achievement unlocked, comfort. In what feels like no time, we enter the clearing. Bemele arrives at almost the same
I
time to
heard
greet
you
us,
two
and
coming
greets
and
us.
thought it best if I came to join you.
Lou and I greet him kind, though Lou still seems more reserved. The three of us quietly wait for the guide's arrival, occasionally chatting with one another as we rest. The sky turns orange as sunset comes upon us. That looks really pretty. As the color seems to drain from the world, being consumed by fog, the guide makes his appearance. Okay, I'm going to leave this episode here, and tomorrow we will see how the journey continues. I hope you like it. If you do, like and subscribe, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.